Welcome back to the Shared Voices podcast. We are blessed today to have Rick and Monique back in the house, back in the new studio, guys. What do you think?
Hello,
This is
this place
awesome.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's nice that Godspeed Equine allows us to use this space for free, allows our organization to come in and to have a podcast studio to use our voice.
Amazing. The first time was in your house.
Man, you guys have been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
Rick and Monique, for some of you guys know, Monique's on the board. They'd both be on the board, but we can only pick one from a family. So they rolled dice.
She's better looking.
They went by the looks and she won. So
Yeah.
But so they've been around for a while. They've been on other podcasts. You guys have heard them before. If you haven't, go back and check out some of their other stuff because it's awesome. I got to know these folks maybe 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and
Three and a half.
and they were from Iowa, and then they moved to Colorado.
And then we came back to Iowa.
Then we came
Now
back.
you came back to Iowa, but you came back to Iowa on a mission. Is that right?
We did.
To start something that's different in this area.
We came back on our whole hope. We became educated as counselors in Colorado
educated?
Springs. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I know you
You're
can't
educated.
tell
No.
sometimes, but it's true.
So you're educated, and
I'm the
I'm-
educated one.
I have proof because I have the thing hanging on my wall.
Wow.
Do I remember? Now I don't know.
and you got the bills.
And I got the bills to pay.
Loans.
So you go
But-
to Colorado, you get education.
We got education as counselors, but we knew right away that we wanted to become a different kind of company because the word on the street for decades has been marriage is in trouble, relationships are in trouble, relationships and businesses are toxic, suicide rates in soldier communities, in first responder communities are high, so on and so forth. And we have counselors, we've had counseling that entire time. The needle wasn't moving. That doesn't mean the counselors were doing a bad job. That means the needle wasn't moving. So Monique and I decided, do we know that the needle's going to move? No, but we decided to change the game, to do something different. So Monique and I created a team-oriented company that says, okay, we're going to bring 2 people in the room with you, and we're going to start our sessions at 2 hours instead of 45 minutes. So you don't have to talk fast for 45 minutes. You can tell your whole story in a 2-hour period of time and more. We do all day sessions too.
I want to challenge you a little bit on that. We didn't come up with this plan. God did.
There you go.
That was a God thing.
Yeah,
It really was. I mean,
Yeah.
we
got you, boy.
She did. God got me.
you know, God called us. We have been working individually off and on through our lives. I mean, this is just a place God's put us where people come and talk to us. It's just a natural thing for them to do. And really had a heart for veterans, first responders, people that have gone through a lot of trauma. We've been through things in our life, and we can bring that into the therapy room, not because we want to do the topic we're going to focus on today, which is trauma swap, but more along the lines of that we can understand where they're coming from, and then we can take that to the next level, because there's more than just talking about your trauma. There is the importance of finding someone that can help you through your trauma.
There you go. There you go. And there's and what's amazing is that you got your military family. Is that correct?
Yep.
Both of you?
Yep.
Yeah, military family. But I think what's awesome about you guys is, you've never been a police officer, you've been a firefighter, but
No.
you guys have dedicated your life early on to say, hey, we're going to focus on marriages, and then we're going to focus on first responder marriages.
Yep.
And so you did, it's not like it's something that one day somebody walked in that happened to be a first responder. Like, you guys have dedicated time, education, specifically to be culturally competent to help
Yeah.
first responders.
That's correct.
And so that's what honestly separates you guys different. And I've known you guys, and I know a lot of counselors, and counselors are great. I always say, repeat a thing that Jeremy says, which is counselors are like shoes. Some are good, some are bad, and some stink.
But that's
Yeah.
true. Like in any industry, they're
Yep.
good and bad. We love our therapists out there. We just happen to really love this community. And that is one of the reasons why we created a team. They think in teams. This group of people grows up in teams and that in their careers. And so we wanted to provide that for them as well. Besides, on the faith component, we knew that we were asked to be one. We were called to be one. You are now one in God's eyes. And we wanted to carry that into every part of our life together.
Yeah.
And we do that in as much love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control as we possibly can.
And our agency is that way, right? It's not just Rick and I. We have our daughter is also a therapist, and
She's
she really focuses on grief and
She is
loss.
awesome.
So
She's awesome.
that's another piece that first responders don't necessarily have a good resource for. And she is just amazing when it comes to the grief and loss piece, especially that unconventional grief that first responders are dealing with, secondary trauma, secondary grief. They're not directly knowing the person maybe that died or had the event, but they're struggling with it. And so she can really be a great resource for that from an individual perspective. But she also partners with me and Rick, and we do co-therapy with her as well with our couples.
She also has a lot of training in the first responder, particularly the police world. So
yeah, her daddy was a cop.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So what I think was cool about this is, you guys, I don't bring just anybody on the podcast. I don't just, somebody doesn't just call me up and say, hey, I'm a counselor down the street, I want to come in and do a podcast. That's not how it works. Just because we do need to vet, we need to make sure that when we're putting people on here, that they're culturally competent, that they're safe, and that they're not just on the podcast, to get clients. And I know that's not your guys' heart. That's why I bring you on. Like, you guys care about our first responders, and
we lost the game.
And you guys care about our first responders, and you. But anyway, I'm just putting an edit right there. That camera turned off is bugging me now, didn't it? It's off all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. The light went off. So.
But let's get right down to it, Rick. I want to tell you guys, and I want to tell you, Monique, the worst story I've ever been on. Oh my gosh, you guys should have seen all the blood and guts. It was terrible. I can't wait to tell you guys all this.
Well, that's not exactly what you need to do.
It's not a good idea?
Well, it's not. It might be, but ironically, we get into this stage with, especially when we are in a trauma field where we try to one-up each other with our traumas. We call those trauma swapping. That's not necessarily going to help you heal. It might make you feel validated. It might make you feel seen, but it's not going to necessarily help you actually process it.
Yeah. And that's why we're bringing it up today, because it's a topic that, I work with first responders all the time. You guys do as well. Yep. And sometimes one of the first things first responders want to do is immediately tell you all the bad traumatic things they've been through. And sometimes it can come across as like they're almost bringing it up to justify that they're here, that they need help, or and I think that gets dangerous when not only do they a lot of times do it when they first reach out, which is fine, but then when other first responders get around, then it gets brought up again.
It's a trigger response. A lot of us, when we get triggered by anything, we start to think faster, talk faster. We get a little bit panicked. We get a little bit nervous.
Or a little bit excited.
A little bit excited. Our palms start to sweat. Those kinds of things happen in the counseling room too.
Sweaty, mom spaghetti.
Right? Those kinds of things. So now they're not, it's a stress response system to where they think that they're coming in, they're a little bit stressed by coming to see somebody that they haven't talked to before, and they deliver the news, right? In the end, what we want for them is to have a managed way to talk about their life, because as they go forward, they're going to be able to manage their life in a controlled way. They can't just go into all of life and dump. It's not going to be healthy. So in a way, when they come into that counseling room, we don't only allow this straight dump. And at the same time, we give that 2 hours of time to allow them to give us the story of their life. And we get to ask curious questions. They get to dump some of those stories out. They get to put them in the floor. And what we always tell them is that, look, when you come into this room, when you come into any space, you're not the problem. We let the problem be the problem. So get it out of your mouth. Let's put it in the middle of the room and let's look at it together. And that is an amazing piece of our work.
And we had a little audio difficulty there for a minute, so I kind of had a little issue there.
Yeah.
But I want to get focused back in here.
Yes.
I apologize. We're having some technical issues. But so when people come in and they start sharing, I got a question for you and for our ambassadors that are out working with first responders and helping them. So when we go and we're working with first responders and they want to go in, because I always tell the first responders, let's talk about the emotions from the call. We can say it was a fatality. There was 3 kids, some details of where it was and stuff like that. But what we're talking about is when you really get down and you're focusing on, I'm just going to say the brain matter, and you're focusing on the stuff
detail.
On your clothes and
all the
stickiness.
details.
Yeah.
Right. And we can get stuck, right? We can get stuck in those thoughts. So we need to kind of talk those out with somebody who's healthy so we can get past to unlock those. So we're no longer Because healing is, like I said, it's not like you're going to forget these memories. Like I've said in other podcasts, you're not going to forget the memories. These memories no longer control you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What do you think? Why don't you help us define what trauma swapping is? What do you think it is?
I honestly, if I can say it in a, can I use layman's terms? I mean, this is our
Absolutely.
podcast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a pissing match.
Okay.
Is what it feels like. It feels
Yeah.
like a pissing match.
Yeah.
It's a feel like there's another word that's called stan, STAN.
Mm-hmm.
Crap, that ain't nothing.
Yep.
Per
Crap,
people
that
don't
ain't
like to hear
nothing.
a story and they want to one up it.
It's a chest thump. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I honestly see it more in the men than the female first responders, but everybody does it. It's so. What do we do when someone starts to? Do we just let him go? Do we let him?
There's definitely some relief from throwing out the trauma details, right?
Yeah,
It's an immediate relief. The problem is it doesn't go anywhere. Like, it's great that you guys can be a great space for them to share that information, but the encouragement would be for you. You can understand. The ambassadors can understand. They've been there. They understand where they're coming from and the need to share the details and the need to share the experience. They want validation from you. That's fine. They want understanding from you. That's fine. But what they also need is recovery from that.
mm-hmm.
And you need training for that. And that's where counseling steps in.
Right. So they expose it. Right. They say this. They say these things, but then what?
They
Right.
s-
Then what? You're just leaving them hanging. This is when we need the experts. We need the professionals to come in to
That's
help
the thing.
with that.
Is the other person doesn't know exactly what will be helpful. They just know they've taken on the information that the other person gave them, and they chest thump their way back to the other person. But unfortunately, work doesn't stay between each other. Work also comes home. Work also goes to the grocery store. Work also goes to the bar. Work also goes to the game. Work also goes to the garage. So you can talk to each other and you say, yeah, I got my people. But the suicide rate is still extremely high.
Yeah.
The alcoholism rate is extremely high. The divorce rate is extremely high. When you're sharing, when you're chest thumping, that doesn't mean you're healing.
I
And so
agree.
we need to step outside of that bubble to say, look, I'm talking to my people. It's great. I'm good. If you're good, why are so many of us dying?
Yep.
We're not good.
And we sometimes think when we trauma share that is opening up in a like that's when you go to a bar or whatever and you sit down and you start trauma sharing, you leave there and you're like, well, I hang out with my bros. I got some help. That's not help because nothing
Right.
happened.
Yep.
All you did was compile more on top of it and there was nothing to move forward. So you're still stuck in that same spot. So what I try to tell our people as our ambassadors is it's our job to be a lighthouse for them in the moment, but then be a bridge to get them to the other different modalities that are out there, the counselors, the therapists, the different types of treatments.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to be there, help calm their storm, relate with them because we can. But we ultimately, once that's done, we want to be a bridge to
Right.
get them to you guys. And then we still work with them because there's a whole holistic approach that we have to have. Like I get them back into doing their activities again.
Right.
And I get them out where we go out and we talk about real hard things, affairs, suicide attempts and things like that while we're out fishing and hunting and doing artwork and boating and music and stuff like that. Because it's a multiple thing. We want to work on their mental health as far as these thoughts or these things
Yep.
that are inside of us. And then we also want to get them out into community, right?
Yeah.
We want to get them back out into God's creation. We want
Yep.
God created us all to be creators.
Yep.
We want them to get it back out in their stuff. So I feel like we can do really good at that, but we fail when we don't become the bridge to get to the other resources.
Right.
Right.
Here's the thing. We know Jesus heals. We believe that Jesus saves. We believe that God is in our hearts. But that doesn't mean that we're okay. I've been depressed and I had faith. She's been anxious and she had faith. Just because we come to Jesus doesn't mean that we're healed. Just because we know God doesn't mean that there isn't something else out there, right? Go ahead.
Well, the thing is that God never promised us that it would be easy. Just because you give your life to Christ or follow Him doesn't mean it's going to be a smooth sail, that you're not going to deal with trauma, that you're not going to deal with the issues that come in your lap. You still have to deal with those things. And as a matter of fact, the difference really is that you're not doing it alone.
That's
I
it.
love that 1042 looks at that holistic space because we're just a piece, right? We can help them reprocess the trauma, reframe it, get to a healthier space, not allow the triggers to overtake, learn how to reframe how those triggers might look so that you're not ruminating, or you're not spiraling, or you're not becoming so angry that your wife or your children end up, or your husband end up getting your anger.
Yep.
That's not actually from them, it's from the trauma, right? So we can help with those pieces, but we don't have the capacity, we don't have maybe not the skills, we don't have the resources probably to help them learn how to fish, or to find some other new hobbies, or to find ways to
Community.
yeah,
Yeah.
they need the community.
That's you guys.
Yeah, we get
Yeah.
2 hours with them a few times, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever they need, but we aren't going to stay with them forever.
Yep.
Our goal is to get them to a better place so they don't need us anymore.
So they can
But
go
they
live
need the
their lives.
community. They need like the 1042 community
Yes.
to help them move forward, to find people that they can connect with, that they can do things with, they can do life with.
They need to realize, all of you need to realize, that community isn't only somewhere within the blue line.
Amen.
Community is out here too.
Let's go.
You
Yes.
need some people that aren't in your group. You need people
100%.
You need people that don't live in that world so that you can experience life in a different way, right? My dad grew up, I grew up in the military. My dad was in for 24 years, so all 18 of mine, and then some before me. And he had such a hard time moving into the civvy world afterwards. He was like, he ended up finding a job that was in the prison system because it was sort of like not quite military, but not quite civilian.
Mhm.
And that was because he just wasn't ready, because it was so different to go into the world where you no longer had that instant camaraderie of the moving and the hierarchy and all of that. Same thing for first responders, right? If your whole world is first responders and then home, first responders and home, first responder world, home,
Yikes.
you lose so much of the world.
Yep.
You lose such an opportunity to expand who you are and what your world looks like. But it also helps keep you healthy.
Yep.
Because if that is your whole world, you will implode.
Yes, and your heart will be hardened and hardened and hardened and hardened because you see the worst of everybody. It's negative, and you cannot have a positive mind with a negative mindset
If all you see is
Right.
negative.
if all you see is negative. And that's why you got to have friends at church. Like I always say, like if you have a friend who works with you at your department and you go to church with and is a good friend, okay, that's a good fit. But we don't need to be hanging out with the 9 other guys that we barely know all the time like that. We got to mix
Right.
in. Yeah, maybe that friend from work that's involved in these other things in your life, but your other people need to be people from your friends from, outside of law enforcement, from growing up, from church, from different areas, because
Get involved in something in your community so that you're not doing just first responder stuff,
yes,
right? Like find a gym that you enjoy going to, find a hobby that has absolutely nothing to do with trauma.
Yep.
Right? That is actually, take up knitting. I don't care. They say that all those fields are coming back now. All these, they call them the grandma and grandpa hobbies, are coming back to a lot of
knitting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hey,
because kids are tired of being in their phones. 20-somethings are tired of being in their phones. They want to experience life. We can help them with that.
Yep.
We can help them discover what they might find as fun.
yeah, that's great.
The best thing about getting away from trauma swapping, because when you're trauma swapping, it may reduce the tension for a little bit, but your nervous system is still activated. When you step outside and walk over the bridge and you talk to somebody who's just there and willing to listen, nope, they haven't seen it. Nope, they haven't been there. Nope, they haven't heard the sounds. But what you get when you're talking to them is you're not sharing sounds, you're not sharing smells, you're not sharing locations, you're not sharing sights. You're giving someone an experience that you've had in a way that they have never had it, which means they're not going to take it on themselves. They don't need to take it on themselves. That's not their life to live, and that's perfect. Now, all of a sudden, you have a soft place to land. And the one thing that first responders need to know is that a lot of us out here can understand. We do understand pain. We do understand death. We do understand some trauma. We do understand stress. Not like you've had it, but like we've had it. I can take it on. We're willing to take it on. And if you're willing to give that to us, if you're willing to walk over that bridge, the first time you do it, it'll be scary.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to look around. You are going to want to run right back into the bubble. It happens to all of you. But a few of you stay outside the bubble. And those are the ones that I've seen become the happiest people in the first responder community.
Yep. There's so much truth to that. And we see it within first responders everywhere. They get in the first responder community and they don't want to leave it. And it's the whole world doesn't understand us. It's an
Right.
us against them mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You
It
don't get
becomes
us.
combative, right?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's an ugly mindset to get in. And
Mhm.
it's an untrue mindset because, yeah, we're wearing a piece of uniform that carries a badge and going to trauma. Yes, that's one thing. But normal folks deal with trauma as well. It's not like,
Well, I mean, given it, let's give it its due, right? Like
Respect.
it's respect. There is definitely things that first responders have to do, especially in the city, that other people don't have to deal with and won't see, right? And we're talking EMS also. We're talking dispatchers having to make the calls and having to end the calls and things
Yep.
like that. We recognize that that's not something other people see every day. And we have to recognize that. We have to understand that that is a unique club, if you want to call it. A club kind of makes it sound positive,
yeah.
but it's its own unique club, right? And I don't want to not give that the respect it's due. But there are definitely people outside of that club that can help you move beyond it so that that doesn't become your whole world, that you don't get that negative lens all the time, that you don't think everybody is, terrible or the world's terrible and a negative place to be. Or, especially, I have a hard time, working with DV because, domestic violence is such a tough thing. I can't imagine being a police officer having to walk in and deal with that.
Yeah, it's
Right?
tough.
It's tough. And they're dealing with that day in and day out sometimes. And so I know, me as not being a first responder, how tough that is for me. I can't even imagine having to deal with that day in and day out. And you think, what in the heck is marriage if that's what people are doing? Or what are relationships if that's what people are doing? And so I can understand where they would get this real negative view on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But we have an amazing ability to say, you know what? That's not how God designed relationships to be. God wants us to be in relationship, both in a marriage relationship and with friends. We want to connect. Real Connections Counseling, that's the name of our organization, Real Connections Counseling and Coaching. We picked Real Connections for a reason. God gave us that vision because we want to help build real connections, not just between couples, but between people. And you can only do that if you're real and vulnerable. But that doesn't mean you have to swap stories to see one up each other. See who can do that better. We share life together. We
Share
connect,
experience.
share experience together. That's the important piece.
Isn't that why we do teams, right? When you get stressed by a domestic violence story that's coming our way and I get to fill in so you can take a few breaths and vice versa.
Right.
Isn't that what relationship is all about? Isn't that what real connection is all about? And that's what we teach other people how to do.
Right.
And we'll talk about this on the next episode, but when we're bonding through trauma, when we're trauma bonding, which is what we'll talk about a little bit on the next one, is trauma bond. We think trauma bonds are real.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to maybe female coworkers, male coworkers, whatever your sex is, and they can sometimes trauma bond at work that leads to affairs, things that it gets really ugly. It matters who you talk to. It matters who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
You're going to become like the people around you. Your friends are taking you somewhere. Where are they taking you? I always, on my phone, I have the little, it's a picture from the Bible, and it's a little image of the friends digging through the roof and lowering their friend down to the feet of Jesus.
That's awesome.
Like I want those friends, right?
Yep.
Right.
I want that. And they're going to do that for me some days, and some days I'm going to do that for them.
Absolutely.
But they're not taking me to the bar. They're not taking me to the titty bar. They're not doing that. I want friends that when I can't, they're going to pick me up. They're going to take me to the feet of Jesus, and they're going to stand there with me, and they'll dig through the roof to go around people and do it. That's the kind of people we need to be hanging around with. Those are the friends that are going to make a difference in your life, that are going to allow you to heal and to grow. And if you don't have those people in your life, and you have people around you that are not doing that, I'm sorry. We got to break away from relationships that are not taking us to places we want to go.
That's absolutely right.
Surround yourself with where you want to be. They always say, they said that in business, but that's just in life, right?
Yep.
If you need to surround yourself with people that you want to be like.
There's a quote, and I think it's from Atomic Habits, and it says every action that you take is a vote for the person you want to become.
So what do you want to become?
Yep.
Now, and that's from a faith side, that matters. From just a life side, that matters. And it's so good for first responders because it begins to help them think in the order of, how am I acting? Am I proud of myself? What should I reasonably expect of myself today? We don't think about yesterday. We don't think about tomorrow. What's reasonable for me today? What's my experience today? You said earlier, do I just come in and just go, blah, I've got so many details to give you. But what you're going to recognize, especially over the bridge, is that the details are a little bit less important than they're important, but your experience is way more important. Like, man,
What
I am
you're
just
feeling.
so sad. I am so hurt. I can take that on.
And we don't need to compare trauma.
No.
That's I
You
see
don't
it
need
all the
to.
time, guys. It's and I was talking to this yesterday when I was giving a talk to the dispatcher academy. Like we cannot be comparing our trauma with each other, because I gave them an example. These were dispatchers, so I was talking to dispatchers. I said, if you and Mark are working next to each other, I was talking a female and a male, and the female picks up a call, and it's a lady screaming that she's pinned in her room. A guy just raped her, and the lady on the phone, the dispatcher, has been raped before, and she's gone through this. Now, if Mark picks up the phone call and he does it and he's going through that, now is that a traumatic call for him? Maybe. Is it a traumatic call for her? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we look at those two calls and say, like, what the hell's the matter? It's what we do. It's a call. But we got to understand that we always are the age we've ever been. We got a 5-year-old inside of us, a 6-year-old, old trauma, old bonds that come out. Mm-hmm. And that's why we can't compare our trauma, because it matters what you've been through.
Right.
Some people go back to 6 years old. Some people go back to 14. Some people go back to 22. That's why your experience matters more than your details.
Yeah.
There's an interview out there called the Forensic Experiential Trauma Interview, and it's used in some first responder areas around the country. But the FEDI interview is, I guess that's redundant, but the FEDI is there to gather up your experience. The details, was it a red coat, green coat, are way less important. And they've realized that they've been able to solve a lot of crimes just by saying, it smelled like this. I noticed the sound of his voice was really scary, that kind of thing.
Dripping in the background.
Dripping in the background, those experiential details matter so much more in solving crime. So now we carry that same idea into solving what's ailing you inside.
What a great topic. We could literally go on for hours on this topic. We've talked about this so many times.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's so important. But I think it's important. And now that we have the studio set up, we're going to be doing a lot more recordings. So we'll be able to, I want to sit here and keep going for another half hour. I really do. Yeah. But we're going to close up. But Rick and Monique, what would you say, like, as we close out this, I want to give you guys the last 45 seconds or a minute. Number one, tell them, at the end, tell them how the people can reach you. But what are the 1 to 2, 3 points that you want people to just stick with them as we close out about what we just talked about? That it's
okay. Well, some key points, I think, that, your peer conversations, you're talking with your buddies from the force, they might make you feel like you're reducing the isolation, but professional care, going to counseling, going to therapy is going to help restore that stability you need to be able to go back out to the next call.
Yep.
You're going to feel some relief after those conversations maybe, but if you want actual recovery, you have to have structure. You've got to have some things outside of your buddies. Because
dopamine conversations don't give you, there's no growth in those. If you are bonding with somebody and you're all both getting dopamine because you're telling stories, that's a feeling you get. But then when you leave, all of a sudden you feel icky kind of.
Yeah.
That's because it was a
high.
Yes, it was a high. That's all it was. It got you nowhere.
Right.
But it feels like healing for a moment.
Yep.
And then we go home and then we feel stuck. And then now we have these thoughts that we just talked about.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and then we're remembering those stories, and that just continues to ruminate in your head rather than actually make you feel like you actually processed something or got it out, because you didn't get it out. You just swapped stories.
And if you're keeping it inside your own head, that's a dangerous thing you can do. You're in monologue. We got to get it in dialogue, right?
We got to get in dialogue. Many people say, like, I want to protect other people from this information. And that sounds like bravery. It sounds like courage. But for me, it sounds really dangerous.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually protect. The Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. That means I have to love me as well as I love my neighbor. And in fact, I have to love love me first. So if you're trying to protect others from you, there's no community in that.
Yeah.
God is a relational God. That's what I hope that others can remember about today.
So if any of the listeners would like to reach out to Real Connections, they can do that. Our website is realconnectionscounseling.com. They can call 515-635-1805. Right now, Alyssa is our primary admin that'll take the phone call.
She's also a therapist.
She's also a therapist, but she will pair you up with the best team to be with, depending on your situation, what you're looking for. We do individual work. We do couples work. The couples, like Rick has mentioned a couple times, we start at 2-hour sessions. Individual work we do is traditional. It's the 50-minute sessions, and we can do that as well. We have the option for intensive. So if you've got someone's like, I've got some stuff I want to deal with, or we've got a relationship infidelity issue, we want to deal with it soon and hard and fast, we offer intensives, which is we do a 2-hour intake and then we do a 6 or an 8-hour intensive. So they don't have to take off work. Just take one of your days that you're already off your shift. Let's hit it. Let's deal with it. Let's push through it.
A lot of you don't have much time. Now I wanted to say that. So coming in for an 8-hour day sounds like, oh my gosh, how can we do 8 hours? But we control it and we have a little fun. We smile, we take some breaks, we eat some snacks, we have some drinks. It's a good day.
Yeah.
Drinks by beverages, not alcohol.
Water.
Better quality.
So
And
you guys are in Central Iowa. How you guys do virtual? How do they get to you?
Yeah. Well, our office is based in Urbandale, so that's in the Des Moines metro area. But we can do online sessions for the intensives. We do like those in person. It's too hard to do that far away. But take a day, come out. We've got some agreements with a couple of the hotels near our office. So
yeah, you guys are down by Living History Farms, kind of in that area, and there's some nice hotels
right next door.
Revel has given us a deal at the Revel Hotel, so we can certainly
come down, make it.
Yeah,
stay, get a hotel for a night, bring your, and spend some time with your spouse.
Yep. We're also in Winterset, so
yeah, we have a space in Winterset. We can see people as well. So if they want to not be in the metro, we can certainly do that. We're also licensed in Colorado and Hawaii, and I'm in Illinois. So if we've got people outside of
we can reach you
listening, and you're in those states, we can also see you that way. So.
Well, thank you guys. You'll be on again and again and again.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Thank you so much for how much you guys just give to our organization and your dedication to our first responders and this organization.
Well,
we love you, Dan. So.
Yeah, and our theme is that we want to help we want to help build the relational health of our community. And let's start with first responders.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, guys, nobody walks alone.